Hi. Before I kick off, I want to actually ask the survivors in the room to kind of put their hands together for Thomas and his team. It's really unusual for almost 9 o'clock at night to be still running a conference and not actually sitting back with a beer. So if you join me in saying thank you to Thomas and crew. Okay, right. So you've all earned your merit badge for surviving long conference days. So let's do this talk a little bit more interactively than we would normally do it. Raise your hand and specifically your mobile device if you've been tweeting along today. Yeah, more of you are doing it than that. I've been watching you. Awesome. Right, fantastic. Bear that in mind as we go along. My name's Laura Bell. I'm the founder and lead consultant at a small security firm in New Zealand called SafeStack. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because you're nice people. You're security people and you're moral. Your moral system might not match anyone else's moral system particularly, but you're still very moral and you really do believe in what you preach. Now that's a bit of a problem for me, because it means we're not doing some things we ought to be doing. So, how many of you committed crime today? Amazing, good start. Well done, that lot in the corner. You can always trust the Aussies and the New Zealanders and a couple of Americans to get involved. Right, the rest of you, what are you waiting for? At least a dozen people just raised really fancy mobile devices in the air. Opportunities. In fact, you're at a conference, you're trusting people all of the time. You're sat next to complete strangers. What have you done about this? Not much at all, I would imagine. Maybe said hello and forgotten their name promptly, but you haven't taken the opportunity to look at their bag or what they're carrying. Now, for the record, and because my lawyer makes me say this in most of my talks, please do not do crime. Crime is illegal. I am in no way telling you to do crime, kind of. So it does. Right. So, why are we here today? We're here because people are a bit of a problem, specifically people like you. And I want to show us how we are going to fix the people problem of security. Now, at least half a dozen of you are mentally going, oh shit, it's a fluffy talk. Don't worry. I'm not going to tell you newsflash, lying works. Newsflash, tailgating through a doorway is easy and gets you places. No, let's move on from that. Let's do something new. This talk actually might make you feel uncomfortable because I'm going to be talking about doing bad things to nice people. And most people aren't really all that happy with that. I can't imagine why. In fact, it's because we feel comfortable when we're in our safe spaces, right? And for people like us, our safe spaces are technological. We feel very, very comfortable when we're talking about technological vulnerability. We don't sympathize with it. We can destroy it for a living and it doesn't complain. Nobody looks at us like we're unethical for multiply every day sending bad things at a computer system. It does not cry, it does not write home to our mothers. But remember, let's remember those old security modules we did at university, or that horrible awareness course that our last employer sent us on. Technology is only a third of the problem, and the rest is process and people. So I want to apply some of the things we're doing in the technical space to the bits we're ignoring entirely. So let's have a refresher. We do things with technology. We do testing, we do reverse engineering and fuzzing and vulnerability scanning. To put it in loose, non-technical terms, you take something that's interesting, you tear out its insides to see how it works, and then hopefully you can put it back together again to do other malicious things. Now, if you were doing this to people, this would be probably frowned upon. But we do it every day with our computer systems. In fact, we've got so good, we've commoditized it. Anyone with a computer system and a set of tools like Nessus can set themselves up as a pen test firm, and off we go. Fantastic. Processes are audited. It might be the devil's work, but we still do it. Clipboards are still in fashion for certain subsets of people, and checklists will never go away for large organizations. But what about people? What do we do with our people? Well, to be honest, we're kind of failing. How do we measure vulnerability in our people? I'm going to give you the answer. We don't. Related to this, how do we plan and structure our defenses around people? We're very good at telling our architects that they need to plan out their architectures and measure the threat of them. We have frameworks for this. How do we do it with people? Oh yeah, we do training courses, and we learn to press left click as many times as possible in a minute to get to the end and get our certificate. If we, as technical people, go to them, we try and manipulate the parameters and see if we can skip the entire module altogether. Oh, and we do posters. Oh, we make lovely posters. In fact, join in. Please, you have internet, you have mobile devices. Please go Google Information Security Awareness poster and go educate yourself. Please use the hashtags and we will share the awesome learning and safety we all get together. And then, to top it all off, once we've given them a poster and sent them out into the world of connectivity, we shame them publicly when they get it wrong. And we do this for big corporations in the press, and we do it for individuals in our offices. We laugh at Bob. We chuckle at Mary behind her back. But the funny thing is, we do exactly the same bad practices ourselves. The security people in organizations, when I do social engineering, pen tests, or red teams, do exactly the same bad behaviors because they're too good to fall for tricks. They're too important to care about this stuff. And this isn't how people learn. So we're spending all of this time in Microsoft Paint, or God help us, Photoshop, making fantastic JAWS rip-off information security posters. But that's not how people learn. That's not how behavior changes. We change our behavior by screwing up publicly with those around us so that they can tell us, get up, get better, keep going. We reinforce in our children, in any other part of our life, getting up and repeatedly trying these new things and getting better. But we don't do this as security for people. At best, we do the occasional one-off, small-scoped social engineering pen test, at best. We don't give people opportunities to actually fail. How many of you have ever stopped someone walking into your building and said, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Yeah? For most people, they've never done that. Even if you think you are able to do that, that's really, really hard. Because someone who really wants to be there and really wants to get into your organization, they have tricks. They know what they're doing. They've practiced. Yet, we send our entire workforce out with a nice message, you'll stop them at the door. Oh, fantastic. Good luck with that. And how do we assess when initiatives are actually working? How do we say, who's at risk and who's not? We don't test because it's too easy, right? Social engineering, you can't stop it. Because people can't be taught. People are lazy, people are silly, people are stupid. The problem is, as security people, we say this all the goddamn time. And we are the people too. So what I'm going to show you is a tool that I'm developing it's open source. You can kind of go out and play with it. Well, probably not tonight. We're going to eat barbecue food and get drunk. But later, you can go and play with this later. And I'm going to show you how we can actually remember we're all people in this together, and we can all test our organization's people-based security. So I want to get rid of all of this. I don't want organizations to say, I no longer test. I don't test because it makes people uncomfortable, because people will get fired, because it's hard, because we don't know how to fix it. These are all rubbish excuses. We spend millions of dollars on fancy pants devices, and we spend no time at all on our biggest weakness, which is our people. Oh, and I'm really sorry, vendors that are in the room. Really sorry. But your devices are not the answer. I sat in a lovely CISO talk about 3 weeks ago where he said, I want a world to exist where it doesn't matter what you click on. The border will save us. I call bullshit. I say we move on. I say we stop trusting these pretty pipes that are normally left in debug mode, that are just sitting there monitoring, we're not checking the logs. Screw that, let's take responsibility. So, let's stop avoiding testing, and let's find a way to safely do it and understand what is going on with our people. Because I say that we can change human vulnerability assessment from a novelty thing that you do if you've got spare budget at the end of the year to something we can do all the time. And I'm going to show you how now. Right, this is a talk of two halves. I'm going to show you a tool called Ava. Ava is a first-generation automated human vulnerability scanner. Now, in the same way that we run things like Nessus in an automated, no feelings involved way, I want us to do that to our people. Now, this is a tool that penetration testers had sat in a room with me and said, stop talking about this. This is creepy. So, you know. So, it's a three-phase tool. First stage is knowing. I believe we don't actually know our organizations. We don't know what they look like. We draw a very pretty organogram or organizational chart for our organizations that has these nice, clear boundaries of, you know, A reports to B, reports to C. And it's rubbish. We don't know the interconnectivity of the people in the organizations we work in. And Ava is looking to change that. It is pulling data from every data source it can get its greedy little hands on, and it is mapping connectivity. Because human security risk is increased by connectivity. If you've got people who are the go-to people, the people who know everyone, who have access to every system, they are far higher risk to you than the people who are outliers, who are on the edge of your networks. And the only way to find these is to map the connectivity. In fact, we're mapping it from a whole deal of different technologies, and we'll come into the ethics of this slightly afterwards. We're pulling from Active Directory and LDAP because, you know, for a large organization, whether we like it or not, that is the source of truth for most people's accounts. We're pulling from Twitter. We're pulling from LinkedIn. Whether you use it actively or not, most of you have accounts. I know, I get the spam of people trying to add me who I've never met. I'm pulling from Facebook. Yep, absolutely. Email. Any kind of communication platform you're using, or the ones you don't even know your teams are using yet. So your development teams are using all sorts of communication tools you're probably not using. And I want to be in there getting my greedy little fingers on all of those connections. And we're going to turn it into people and identifiers and groups and connections. Because the thing is, the more you map this stuff and bring it together, you get an aggregated picture of permissions and connectivity. And that's powerful stuff. I'm pulling metadata. I'm not just pulling is a member of X group. LDAP's easy, right? We all know what that's going to do. We've been dumping the contents of LDAP servers as part of network penetration tests for as long as I've been an adult, probably. So we're going to put all of this metadata on top. We're going to say whose accounts never expire, whose hasn't logged in, whose account's active and who isn't, who's an administrator. All of these features we're going to layer on top of this graph, because that way we can actually visualize hotspots of risk. The more of these at-risk profiles you see layered on top of each other on a person, the higher profile the target. We're going to profile and score every individual in the organization. For real. Every single person. Now, this isn't in a way that you can hunt down and fire someone. That would be slightly rude, I'm told. But it's so that you can actually prioritize, because you can't save everyone. You can't protect every system. That's a reality. So what are we going to do with it all? We're going to test. Now, Fish5 showed us for a number of years now that you can do phishing testing in quite a coherent way, use it in your organization. In fact, Big Four accountancy firms will now sell you ad hoc phishing experiments. So, you know, this is kind of cool now. I kind of want to take it a bit further, and we are. We're going to test over every communication mechanism and interaction point that people have. And it means crossing boundaries. We're talking phishing, email is the same way as phishing, but social networks. Any kind of communication tool you can imagine. SMS, files on honeypots. If there's a place where human risk could occur, I want to be measuring it and trying it. Because if we're not trying it, we don't know how people are going to react. Email attacks are an interesting example because in an email attack, the standard ones are, I'm a Nigerian prince and I have $1 million and send me 10% via Western Union and you'll be a queen or something. But the reality is, email attacks could be really varied in their type. Imagine you're a first-line help desk and you receive an email from the CEO asking for a password. That's a very different psychological set than someone replying to a strange email that's badly written with poor English from some purported Nigerian prince. And I think we should test it. I think we should make it okay for our first-line responders to turn around and go, nope, sorry, jog on. And the only way to get brave enough to do that is to practice. And in fact, I care so much about the types of emails at work, I've been reaching out to the world. I'm trying to collect successful email attacks, successful clickbait tweets. I want us to collect a corpus that's templatable so that we can actually retry these attacks and see if they work in other organizations. The bigger our corpus and the more templatable it is, the more accurately it's going to reflect the threat that's really out there on the internet in a way that's lightweight and easy for us to do as systems people who are far too busy to make this stuff up ourselves. Now, we've currently got 2 universities full dumps and a bank, which isn't a bad start. It's several thousand emails. But please, I do like people who share. So if you happen, just for any reason, I'm not going to ask questions, have a stash of malicious emails kicking around, please do let me know. I accept all donations by various file formats. So clearly, I'm starting to push the boundaries between professional and personal, right? Your employees, you yourselves, did not sign up to being monitored on every communication technology. And this is going to cause a privacy and kind of ethical headache for anyone involved. I'm not walking away from that, I'm admitting it freely. But I think it's one we have to have. It's a debate that needs to be had. How many of you are on work time? Work has paid for you to be here today. Yeah? Quite a lot of you. Well done. Corporate budgets. Yeah. How many of you have been doing personal communications on your time today? Almost all of you. Yeah? Via IM, via SMS, via Twitter, or wherever. And that's not just unique because you're out of the office at a conference. That's happening at the desks in the offices. People are using every tool to do every job. I work with a lot of startups. I'm basically a security cat herder. And I look at the technologies they're using. And I'm finding genuine, actual teams out there in the world sharing private documents via Facebook group. This is not some fantasy of, maybe we need to care one day. This is genuinely happening in the real world. So I'm very sorry, but I don't care about your personal boundaries. I'm going to ignore them entirely. I am a nice person, I should note that. But largely, it's for the greater good. And then we're going to treat this as something we do all of the damn time. Security fails, all security fails, when it's a special event, when we wheel out the person in a suit with a clipboard who's well prepared to answer questions. So we're going to schedule this, and we're going to do it on a recurring basis so that you can continually test your organization. We're going to give the option of succeeding, because there's nothing worse than a rigged test. Your staff will know you are doing this because you're going to tell them. And you're going to give them control over their data. If they don't want their name associated with it, fair enough. If you can still get a lot of data without publishing names. If you want to incentivize people guessing and spotting bad things, that's awesome too. We're providing mechanisms for that because security isn't about proving your baby is ugly or proving that people are stupid. It's about getting better. And we don't do getting better very well. So we're going to incentivize it. And then we're going to analyze what we find, right? Because we're going to have behavior patterns over time. We're going to see over a network of people how things spread and whether somebody is reacting better now than they did later. We're going to look at the impacts of stress. If you know your organization's going through a massive stressful period and you can correlate it with test data like this, you can identify people doing dumb things because you've put them in painfully difficult situations to cope with. So let's do that. Let's correlate activities and timing in your organization with security testing. Now, I'm a bit of a maths nerd. I did a lot of AI once upon a time when I was thinking academia was a cool, fun, profitable thing to do. I'm really interested in graph theory, and it turns out people are really good for graph theory. And we can measure the impact of our training using graph theory. We can look for pockets in our networks that respond well to risk before and after training. We can look for weak links. We can look for those people who, for whatever reason, have kept every permission set under the sun because they've become indispensable to your organization. We can find the people who are talking to everyone else. Because let's face it, if you were going to attack an organization, they're who I'm starting with. They are the server that can talk to all others. They are your backup server in a network pen test. They are the person that everyone trusts that is in everyone's business. We're going to look at it in the same way we would look at pivoting. If you need to get through an organization and find classified information, or you need to get to a particular system or access, then you're going to need to probably pop through multiple people to get there. This is no different than networks, and we should stop treating them differently. This is just a network of different types of components, of people. And you know what would be fun? If you have all of this data, and you've done all of these tests over all of these things, you can kind of predict what's going to happen next. So you might be able to correlate planned events with potential risky behavior, which doesn't mean you can go, right, Bob, please take 3 weeks vacation, I'm paying you, just go. It means you can plan your defenses around a person or a group of people who are under stress. You can predict what kind of phishing or spam attacks are going to be clickbait for your organization, and you can prepare people in advance. It may not be glamorous preparation, but you can be forewarned. So what is this tool? Well, I'll politely put it that it was organically developed. I have a 2-year-old. This has been in development for a year, and it's been developed in nap times, largely, at about pace of an hour a day. We've just undertook a big refactor, because it's now we, not just me, and it's written in Django, Postgres, a whole range of technologies. But we've now reached the point, as of this week, we are very proud to announce that there is a stable version in GitHub that is open source under GPL, and it's complete with Vagrant and Ansible. So you can actually go play, and even better, if you're feeling intrigued or in any way creative, you can come and write code for us. We give this project out to the community. You can run this in your network. This is not a vendor pitch. This is a call to arms for a type of tool that should have existed for a long time. So screw it. Here it is. You're welcome. So I'm going to do what they say never to ever, ever do in the last talk of a presentation. Let's try and do a video. 1 second. Also, unironic surface. Right. Okay, is it going to work? Oh, maybe. We've got no sound. Sound people, hello. Please wake up. Yeah, it's plugged in. That's not my sound. Yeah, does anyone beatbox? We could do this with beatbox. All right, screw it. We'll do it with that sound. Oh, hello. So this is a tool in action. You don't do live demos of this shit, you need an entire network. The video will be available online afterwards. And UX is really hard. So if you're a UX person, please come talk to me. So, where are we going next? Well, every communication tool that's in use in your organizations, even though you probably don't know they're being used because the development team haven't spoken to you in months and have probably forgotten you exist, all of those tools, we're going after them. We have a modular framework, and we're going to go and we're going to integrate with as many of them as humanly possible. We are going to restructure our database into Neo4j because this is graph databasing at its best, and we probably should have done that to begin with. And we're going to build, basically, a human security movement, and we want every single one of you involved. You can download it today. There is a Vagrant Ansible build. It needs a little bit more testing. It works on many operating systems, but please pull a request if you find a slight bug in that. But you can get involved. You can get involved right now. But the question that remains, right, is this tool is pushing us into places we haven't taken human security before. This is going to cause privacy headaches. This breaks rules. This is going to upset people in your organizations. And I think we've got to the point now where we can't really afford to dance around it and not have those conversations. Because the tool I've just outlined to you, if you weren't blind, you will have noticed, even if you didn't use it as a defensive tool, it would make a freaking kick-ass offensive one. So, if you think it's worth us going, well, defensive people, we can actually do it, with a tool to begin with, rather than waiting and playing catch-up, this is the time we do it. Because if we don't do it defensively, somebody is going to do offensive in this way. People are already doing offensive attacks on our people in this way. So let's harden up. Let's take the human element out. Let's stop feeling sensitive about it. And let's bring on automated human vulnerability assessment. All right. I am not naive enough to ask for questions at the end of a talk on this mammoth day. I am also probably the only sober person in this room. So, I drink white wine. I have stickers that I am not afraid to bribe people with. I'm going to be in the bar. So if you have any questions, please do come and find me here or on the Twitters. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask, but is there any question? Does anyone have a question for Laura? Does your software works on Windows platform? That's a fair question.
It will run on anything you can run a suitable web server on. So we've had it on Nginx and on IIS. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Seriously, questions? No? Once again, Laura Bell.